How often do you feel like you're running out of energy? Like you barely have enough to get through the day, let alone the week? You know, it all comes down to how well you're nourishing yourself or not. I'm Laura Lee Humphreys, and in this episode of Faces of Freedom TV, I'm going to be sharing with you a whole new perspective of what it means to nourish yourself. So you're going to want to listen in, because this new perspective can really make a difference in how you approach your own self-care, as well as every other area of your life, including your relationships and how you do your coaching business. So it can support you in creating a life that you love through a home business lifestyle. So let's start out by looking at the word nourishment or nutrition. What does that really mean? So to look at that, then we look at the root of the word, of where it came from. So the word nutrition comes from the Latin word nut or nux, and that meant the seed or the beginning point, referring to the point of light or life, the beginning seed of light or the point of life. And in this context, then the two words life and light are synonymous. So then nutrition is the process of bringing greater light or life into your body, into the cells, so that the cells of your body can nurse or suckle, nourish themselves on that light or life. Okay? Light has also been associated with intelligence or information. And we know that sunlight is the source of all life. Also, nourishment is another Latin word that means to feed life, to bring or give light. So in terms of light, the smallest particle of that is the photon. And each photon is able to hold or store vast amounts of information. That's where we get the association of intelligence, information, light, of how those can be synonymous because of this capacity of the photon. So in terms of feeding yourself, how do you bring greater light or life into your body? You know, we've all heard about the importance of a healthy diet, and I talk about having a plant-based diet all the time. One of the reasons I do that is because when you're eating plants that have life force in them, that are densely nutritious or have a dense nutrient profile, I can't say that right very well. The whole foods that have high nutrition in them means that those plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds have a lot of light or life force within them. So when you eat them, then you receive the benefit of receiving that light. So your cells can know what to do to function properly. Okay? The thing is, when your body is filled with light, the cells have enough light or life force, it goes into the DNA. Your DNA has enough light within it, and so its spiral is loose and elongated. And when it's loose and elongated, then when the cell goes to replicate and the chromosomes replicate, they can do so properly. When they can't do it properly, then the little telomeres, which are little things at the end of the chromosomes, they start chipping away and shortening the telomere. So scientists have recognized this, and they know that the shortening of the telomere on the chromosomes is what creates aging. Okay? So connect all these dots together of what you bring into your body through your diet, your food. How much light are you giving your body, your DNA? So if the cell does not have enough light or life force to function the way it needs to, and its telomeres are gradually shortening, every time the cell replicates and the chromosomes split up, then each successive generation of that cell will gradually become weaker. So therefore, after several generations of this, the granddaughter cell will be weaker or inferior than what the grandmother cell was. This is a process of aging. So let's look at that and start to think about how you can turn that around. I want to mention here too that in this week's download resource guide that I have for you, then I give you a lot of tips and resources of how you can bring more life or light into your body, especially now that you understand nutrition and nourishment from this vantage point, because it can be truly a game changer for you. I know it was for me when I learned to see nutrition and nourishment from this vantage point as well. So think about, what ways are you draining your light? How are you leaking light or photons from your DNA? In this crazy making world, it seems like, where everyone is always running, stressed out, full of anxiety and fear, we're so busy, there's so much stuff to do. That in itself, as we know, stress literally causes inflammation and disease. And this is one of the reasons why, because of its correlation with light and how much light your body, your DNA is holding. Okay? So when you're all stressed out, your body tends to naturally withdraw, recoil, hold back, preserve itself. Your nervous system goes into the sympathetic nervous system mode, which is all about the flight or fight, the freeze mode of preserving, of maintaining life. We go into survival, literally. And when you're stuck in that way for a long periods of time, then we all know that is a precursor to disease. When you're in that state of stressed out, anxious, and fearful state, your DNA spiral contracts. It's not the loose, open, elongated state that is optimal for the chromosomes to replicate and divide properly so that the telomeres don't break off and shorten. So I want you to create that connection in your mind so you understand all of this. Additionally, when you're stuck in the stress mode, then your immune system is compromised, your emotions start going all over the place. You can't think and make decisions very clearly. And so what decisions you do make, the outcome isn't that beneficial or optimal for what you would want in order to grow your business and expand it. And then you start into this downward spiral of poor decisions, poor results, greater survival mode, more hunkering down and tightening and withdrawing, which leaks energy, light, and life force out of your body and out of your DNA. So I don't know if you're familiar with a man named David Wilcock. He's someone I have read his books and followed and learned quite a bit from him. So I want to share something with you that I found on one of his videos, and I will link the YouTube video below so that you can see his clip as well as some of his other things that he's shared. So he was talking about the DNA molecule and its relationship to light and disease. So when you put the DNA molecule into a room that has light in it, the DNA molecule absorbs and draws to it all that light. It's like a gravitational pull. Okay, so it's pulling all that light into itself, and that's how it feeds itself or functions or does what it needs to do in order to function optimally as DNA doing what it does, as the template for life. So every DNA molecule has about 10,000 photons of light inside of it. And just think of that, 10,000 photons with all of that information stored within each photon. That's an incredible amount of information. And so when the cells receive that light with all of that information, they know what to do according to the information and instructions given them of how to function properly and optimally to maintain health. So all of this light within a photon is like a fiber optic cable. And so if you break open the DNA, all of that light comes out, and scientists have been able to measure it, literally. So David Wilcock was explaining that back in the 1970s, there was a scientist named Fritz Albert Popp. And he was studying this, and he wanted to know, so what causes cancer? What is a carcinogen? And what he found literally is not known in mainstream medical science at all today. And you'll understand why, because it's very obvious how it would contradict the profit-generating activities of big pharma and the conventional medical establishment. Even though Dr. Fritz Popp's science is now 40 some odd years old, not a lot of people know about it. And what he found was that every cancer-causing substance, which is a carcinogen, the frequency of or vibration of that cancer-causing substance scrambles light at the wavelength of 280 nanometers. So it's a specific little frequency, a wavelength that can be measured. So why is this important? Well, 280 nanometers of wavelength, that particular frequency, is the exact wavelength of light that your DNA needs to absorb, to draw to it the light from its environment so that it can feed and do its thing. You follow that? It's very important to recognize that. So when you have a carcinogen, it's literally preventing your DNA from being able to ingest the light that it needs. It doesn't absorb the light like it's supposed to. Therefore, your DNA doesn't have the information from the photons, or within the photons, all of the raw materials and resources it needs to be able to send out the signals of information to tell the cells how to properly function, to tell the cells of your body to stop replicating and stop reproducing. When the cells don't receive that information or that signal, they start growing out of control. And that's what grows tumors, and which is what a cancer is. So, to sum up that part, cancer is caused by not having light within your DNA, not receiving the nourishment, the nutrition into your DNA, into your body that it needs. Are you making the correlations here? This is deep stuff, but it's so important, and I want you to really grasp it. So light is caused by not having, or cancer is caused by not having light within your DNA. So that leads me to my next thing. How can you bring more light into your DNA? How do you nourish yourself? You can do that, as I mentioned, through a plant-based whole foods diet, eating vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, things that have life force or light inherently within it, rather than stressing your body out further by eating packaged, processed, fake foods that are loaded with chemicals that literally are carcinogenic. So rather than stressing your body out further with a fake food where you deplete your DNA, deplete your body of light more, then let's not go there. Let's eat real food to feed your body with more, greater light. Give it more life force. When I was learning a lot about energy healing, the mind-body connection, and the inner work, then I learned a lot of it from a woman healer for several years. And she said something that really just stuck in my mind. So this isn't a quote that I want to share with you. And she said, "The fastest way to anchor frequencies into your body," meaning light, photons, higher energies of states of being, the fastest way to anchor these frequencies into your body is to eat foods that contain those higher frequencies. And that so that you can incorporate them into your body. Those higher frequencies, again, it's light, life force, nourishment. Going back to the original wisdom that the ancients knew, expressed through the Latin language of nutrition being the process of absorbing light into your body. So that brings me back to the download resource that I have for you, which I would love for you to look at, apply, and let me know your thoughts on it. This resource has a little assessment. It's called what I call the 7 source channels of nourishment. So these are 7 different areas of your life, not just what your diet is, but 7 areas of how you're living your life in a whole complete big picture of where you are draining energy and light, or what areas of your life are you feeding yourself, drawing to you greater amounts of light and energy, life force. So for example, in your relationships, are you around people that drain you dry, that you're exhausted and stressed out, and you perhaps have a headache after you're done interacting with them? That's an example of your DNA, your body losing light, losing photons, losing life force. So rather than being around those people that are going to drain you, lower your frequency, intentionally choose and draw to you people and relationships who lift you up, who build you, who are of a like-mindedness, or going in the same direction that you are, where together that synergy of your relationship feeds you both, brings life, force, and light to both of you. Okay, so that's just one example. Look at how you're doing your business, your coaching work. Are there things in your business that suck you dry, that drain you? Then really take an assessment there and say, okay, what can I do to adjust this area of my business? Maybe I need to outsource it to a VA, or like just cut it all together, so that my business is a source of nourishment for me, that feeds me, that brings me more life force and greater light. Okay, so this resource guide, the 7 source channels of nourishment, is designed to help you make that assessment and then create some goals, some intentional activities around the areas in which you could do better to nourish yourself greater. All right, so download that. The link is below this video, or somewhere near here. I would love to know your feedback on it and how you can more greatly nourish yourself. All right, so did you find value in this video? I know this is a whole new conversation about how to nourish yourself, but I really would encourage you to take some time with it to really absorb it and see how you can give yourself more energy. So I'd love to hear from you. What do you do to feed and nourish you? Leave a comment below, subscribe to this channel, Faces of Freedom, and even share this video. As you know, each week then I share more tips and resources and downloadable guides to support you in creating a life that you love through a home business lifestyle. And you can also check me out on Facebook and social media under my name, Laura Lee Humphreys, as well as my page, Faces of Freedom. So you can follow me there to learn more tips and resources. And be sure to check out my website, lauraleehumphreys.com, where you can find even more resources. So until next week, thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your day full of nourishment. Take care.